On the quiet evening of September 22, 2006, 16-year-old Cassie Jo Soddart drove up the winding road to Whispering Cliffs Drive, a calm, peaceful neighborhood sitting on the edge of Pocatello, Idaho. Cassie wasn't the kind of teenager who went out partying on weekends. She was responsible, dependable, and always eager to help. So when her aunt and uncle asked her to house-sit their large two-story home, she saw it as a chance to prove she could be trusted. The house was modern, slightly isolated, surrounded by open hills and long shadows cast by the evening sun. For Cassie, it was just a quiet place to earn a little extra money. For two of her classmates, it was the setting for something they had fantasized about for weeks. Cassie's boyfriend, Matt Beckham, stopped by to keep her company. They settled on the couch, played with the family pets, and watched TV. Cassie felt safe with Matt there. The silence of the house didn't bother her as much. Later that night, Matt's friends, Brian Draper and Tori Adamczyk, dropped in to hang out. They acted harmless, casual, like bored high school kids looking for something to do. But underneath that friendly exterior was a disturbing truth. For weeks, Brian and Tori had been filming themselves planning a murder. They walked around with a camera, whispering about wanting to kill someone, discussing victims like they were picking characters out of a script. They wanted power. They wanted notoriety. They wanted to emulate the horror movies they idolized. And in their videos, something the world wouldn't learn until later, they had already spoken Cassie's name.
Our locker. Got a Halloween
Pretty
style.
fucking sweet, isn't it?
My trench coat.
Isn't it?
It's decently sweet. Here.
Well, I'm gonna like...
Look at those little legs. Obituary. Your information.
Mine. What? Giving you the right to copy me with a character that looks like me.
Around 9:30 p.m., after watching part of a movie, Brian and Tori told Cassie and Matt they were leaving to watch another film at a nearby theater. They waved goodbye, closed the door behind them, and disappeared into the night. But instead of going to the theater, they drove down the road, parked, and quietly changed clothes. They pulled on dark outfits, gloves, and masks, preparing for the moment they had been imagining for so long. The calm Idaho night masked their intentions. The stars hung low and bright. The wind brushed the grass, and the house stood alone on the hill, a perfect target in their eyes. While Cassie and Matt sat upstairs, unaware of anything unusual, Brian and Tori slipped back onto the property. They found an unlocked basement door and walked inside. Standing in the darkness beneath Cassie's feet, they whispered to each other, excited, nervous, thrilled in the worst possible way. They wanted to scare her first, to create a horror movie atmosphere. So they began by cutting the power, hoping the teenagers upstairs would panic and come down to the basement to investigate. But Cassie didn't budge. She stayed exactly where she was, upstairs, in the safety of the living room. The boys waited. The house remained silent. When their plan didn't work, they restored the power, regrouping. A while later, Matt had to leave. He didn't want to go, but Cassie insisted she'd be fine. She had promised her aunt and uncle she'd look after the house. When Matt stepped out the door around 10:30 p.m. and drove away, the lights inside the house reflected off his rear windshield. And somewhere in the hills, Brian and Tori watched that car leave. The moment Matt disappeared from view, the boys re-entered the basement and cut the power again, this time with no intention of turning it back on. As the house fell into total darkness, Cassie's anxiety rose. She checked the circuit breakers. She tried to stay calm for the sake of the family pets. The house creaked. The wind pushed against the walls, and every sound felt louder, heavier, more threatening. She had no idea that two masked figures were already moving up the stairs beneath her feet, slow and deliberate, believing this was their big moment, their transformation from ordinary high school outcasts into the horror icons they admired. What happened next became the focus of a chilling investigation, a community tragedy, and later, one of the most disturbing discoveries ever made on a video camera. When Cassie's aunt and uncle returned 2 days later, what they found inside shattered their world and triggered a massive police investigation. Matthew Beckham was questioned first. He was heartbroken and cooperative. During his interview, he mentioned something police instantly seized on. Brian and Tori had been there that night, and that detail began unraveling a story far darker than police ever expected. Detectives brought the boys in for questioning. Their stories were inconsistent. They fumbled details. They contradicted themselves. And under pressure, one of them finally led investigators to a hidden location in the woods outside Pocatello. There, buried beneath leaves and debris, authorities uncovered a plastic bag filled with evidence: gloves, masks, knives, drawings, and a video camera wrapped in cloth. The tapes inside the camera revealed the truth in haunting detail. Before the killing, Brian and Tori filmed themselves talking about Cassie as their chosen target.
We're going to make history. We're gonna make history. We found our victim, and sad as it may be, she's our friend. But you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Hello, Cassie. I'm getting you on tape, okay? Say hi, please. Okay, see ya. We just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke.
I'm shaking.
I stabbed her in the throat, and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like fucking real. I mean, it went by.
Police officers and prosecutors later said those recordings were some of the most disturbing pre-crime confessions they had ever seen. The boys treated murder like a project, a storyline, a performance they wanted the world to remember. In trial, both teens blamed each other. They said they were pressured, influenced, manipulated. But the tapes left no room for doubt. Their voices, their faces, their own words were all there, planning, preparing, anticipating. The jury deliberated for a short time. Both Brian Draper and Tori Adamczyk were convicted as adults and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. To this day, Cassie Jo Stoddart's murder remains one of the most disturbing teenage perpetrated crimes in U.S. history, not just because of what happened, but because of what it revealed. It showed how two ordinary boys, sitting in normal classrooms, doing normal teenage things, could quietly build a fantasy of violence and fame inside their minds, and then carry it out as casually as if they were stepping into a movie scene they had written themselves. And it showed the world how someone as kind, hardworking, and innocent as Cassie, a girl simply doing a favor for her family, could be targeted by people who hid their darkness behind everyday teenage smiles. Cassie's story is heartbreaking because it was senseless, premeditated, and filmed like a twisted trophy. And even today, nearly 2 decades later, the scream tapes remain locked away, a reminder that the most terrifying monsters aren't the ones in movies, but sometimes the ones sitting quietly in the desks right next to us.